Hello, I'm Hillary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations. My guest today is Olga Naiman, an interior designer, author, and teacher whose work sits at an unusual intersection of home psychology and what she calls spatial alchemy. But this isn't really a conversation about design. It's about what lives underneath our spaces, the identities we carry into them, the versions of ourselves we've outgrown but haven't quite released, the trauma we are releasing, and the peace we are creating, both inside and out. As a refugee from the former Soviet Union, her relationship to home was never simple. That instability became a foundation of her work, creating spaces that help people feel grounded, held, and more fully in themselves, while continuing her own lifelong journey of healing. In this conversation, we move through memory, trauma, color, the body, and the quiet ways we heal. And somewhere inside all of that is a deeper question. What does it mean to create a space that actually supports who we are becoming? This is one conversation that quietly reinforces the idea of healer, heal thyself.
So my name is Olga Naiman, and I was born in Ukraine back when Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. So I see myself as a former Soviet, and I came to this country as a refugee as a child. I spent most of my life living in New York City, and now I live in the Hudson Valley. And what I do right now, I'm a mother to twins. I am an author. I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher, I'm an interior designer, and a stylist. Like, I wear many hats. Really, what my passion is, where spaces shape us and how spaces shape us. Because as a refugee, I was very affected by that. So I really like to play at the intersection of home, psychology, and manifestation. Like how those three things talk to each other.
Did you train for this?
I think I did. My parents are both psychiatrists. So I grew up in the soup of psychology, and my bachelor's degree was in clinical psychology. I went to Tufts University, got a degree there, and I was going to be a psychiatrist like my parents, but I had this very fierce love for interior design. It was my passion. I really wanted to try it out before I went to medical school to see which way. I had worked in psychiatric hospitals as a college student or right after college. So kind of these mental health assistant jobs in psychiatric hospitals. So I had a taste of that. The mind when it's the most vulnerable, the heart where it's the most vulnerable. And I wanted to work with the home. So I moved to New York City and then started and never stopped. But I never forgot my psychology side. And I spent so many years healing my own trauma with shamans, with plant medicine, with meditation, with the Kabbalah, with like every spiritual book I could get my hands on. Like I was very hungry for it since my 20s. It was just these two parts of my personality that came together.
It's interesting. I'm smiling here because there's so many people right now that are waking up to their spiritual side. Some people have had it since they were children, and others are waking up to it, but it's very prominent. When you were in New York, how did you merge the spiritual with the interior design? Did you look for specific clients? Did you have to? Were you directed to that?
So for many years, I started out my career in interior design as an assistant editor at House Beautiful, then associate editor, then editor. And, I kind of started in the magazine world. It was the 90s. I was in my early 20s. I hadn't really awakened that side yet. So I had like a good 5 or 6 years only in interior design. And I had my psychology side with my parents being psychiatrists. I was in therapy constantly. I loved it. They were very separate. And that was really the conversation in the 90s wasn't like the connection of those two things necessarily in the mainstream. So it wasn't until I just couldn't not connect them. As I started delving into the spiritual world more and more for my own healing and my own self, it began to affect the way I worked with people naturally. I was working at that point as a stylist and an interior designer, and my clients were like friends of friends. I was mostly a stylist for interiors. Once I started working with the person, like I would approach them the way a psychologist first, you know, before I did the design. Like I needed to do design on top of heart, like their heart and their soul and what they wanted, like deeply. When I started doing interior design, I'd already had like a good 10, 12 years in my career as a stylist, as an editor, as a kind of artist. I did set design for theater. Got a graduate degree in that. So, as kind of a creator of spaces that held meaning, especially in my theater design, I couldn't not approach working with people in their most personal of spaces from that lens. So I never like trained to bring them together, but I couldn't not.
What are some of the things that you ask new clients?
I asked, what was your relationship with your home as a child? Like, what did your home feel like? Did it feel safe? Like, was home a safe place? Did you love coming home from school? Did you find your home beautiful? What was the energy like in their home as children? And then just kind of tell me about the arc of your apartments and tell me who the personality who lives in your current space is. What version of you is it? When did you create this space? Are there outdated identities that live here? What outdated identities are you looking to shed? What loops do you struggle with in your life? What do you see? Like, what's your, what your taste is? Like, what do you find beautiful? I mean, that's a very typical designer question. And a lot of designers ask questions because they want to know, the heart of their client. But for me, I'm really kind of going deep because I see it as alchemy, really.
You have a beautiful sense of color.
Thank you.
You're wearing a
Thank
very colorful, is that a
you.
vest or a shawl?
Yeah, it's like a duster. It's cold, so it's like a long sweater. It's like it dusts my friend gave it to me actually for Christmas. So
It's
I love this
beautiful
thing. It's so hairy.
and it matches the painting behind you.
Yeah, that's not intentional.
So, how does color play a part in your work?
I'm a very color person. Like these days, there's a kind of lexicon for spiritual design. There's like a minimalism, like whites, wood tones, and a minimalist quality. And if spaces have that, they have a spiritual, people consider them spiritual. That's what people think of when they do spiritual design, is this like spa-like minimalism, wellness kind of vibe. I am the opposite of that. I feel that I'm really into somatic design, and color affects our bodies so deeply. And I feel like if you're not giving yourself the gift of color in your home, you're missing out. It's like, is nature not colorful? Like nature is not only white and wood, I feel like I like to mirror the energy of the beauty of nature in the home through color, and that's through color. And there's activating colors that activate your nervous system, like brighter tones, and then there's the same colors but like deeper tones, like brick red, and like kind of more of like an orange red. They affect your body. Red affects your body so powerfully, and like these tones affect your body so powerfully, and you can play with them. And yeah, like color is just fun. I enjoy it. I wouldn't not want to design with color. It's such an experience for the body. It's, you know, sensual.
So, you've said this a few times, but I want to really hone into it. You said somatic design.
Mm.
That is designing through sensations that run through your body.
Yeah, I had a long history of somatic therapy. So when I was a child, as a refugee, as an immigrant, like I was very dissociated and not in my body at all. And I didn't even realize this until someone pointed it out to me in my 20s. I was like, oh, and what does that even mean? And so I took a lot of somatic therapy, like deep, like emotional release, like moving through the body. I'm a dancer in dance classes. That's like later in life. Like, how do we embody? Like, somatic design is like how your body moves through space, how the animal of you moves through space. It helps you, especially in your home, get out of your head and just kind of land when you come home from work rather than having your mind be racing nonstop. Like, if you kind of become aware of the body and how the body sinks in, jumps, moves from sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic, like a softer space, you could begin to design to encourage that transition. And especially for people who tend to be overthinkers, who live in their head, who are very airy, who don't feel grounded, that's an issue for them. That stability and groundedness is so essential for them to kind of just be able to shift gears, and teach themselves to shift gears. So I design very much, I feel the energy of the people who I'm designing for. I just recently designed a psychedelic psychotherapy center. And as a client of psychedelic psychotherapy, I know what it feels like to be in an altered space in your, on psychedelics. These are legal, ketamine and such. The therapists and I, these are like NYU trained, doctors, we talked a lot about the therapeutic experience and how the client could land in their body in the space and how they feel grounded, especially in the recovery room when they're recovering. How do we hold them? It's like a womb like room, deep red tones, like kind of like being in the womb, literally. So, those are, it's just, I could go on and on about it, but it's just such an important part of design that it's where I start.
If you're designing a healing room in,
Yeah.
say, someone's house, that they want a
Yes.
special space that they can take off the work clothes and retreat to, would the colors change with each person, or would you have a color idea to start with?
I would do the lower tones, the baser notes. Like, I would actually ask, I would look, how in Ayurveda they look at you and they read your doshas. I've
Hmm.
had a little bit of not formal, but I know how to read someone's doshas. You can tell whether they're fiery and airy or fiery and earthy. They have a slower kind of quality. So I find out what the pattern, like what they're healing from, like what they actually want to heal. And if they want to heal a more kind of slow nervous system that needs motivation, the healing room is going to feel different. If they're healing like a lethargy, depression energy, that healing room is going to be very different to someone who's like really working with a scattered mind, ADHD, and some trauma, like, sexual trauma or some kind of trauma where they're kind of disconnected from the root, possibly. So the colors are going to be deeper, more muted, like earth tones. So we're working with earth energy. We want to bring earth energy into their life. So terracotta, woods, stones, earthy colors, things that are substantial, weighty, then bring them down, into their body. With like someone who's depressed and kind of needs motivation, I'm gonna make the healing like kind of a yang energy, like a bright, kind of not super bright. I don't want to jar them, but more brighter, and more kind of like tension in the juxtapositions, and playing, like I'm playing with energy to arouse them more, to inspire and like ignite.
It sounds wonderful. It's fascinating because you live in an area that's very rich green. There's water, there's rain, there's abundance. I'm in the desert. So when
Yes.
I look out, it's very, very beige,
Yes.
except for this time of year. We have flowers, but most of the year it's pretty monotoned.
Yes.
So in that climate, how do you feel in that climate or in
In the
that
cold,
location?
every winter's hard on me. And I keep thinking, And my elderly mother lives in Boston. I don't want to like move too far away, and I grew up in Boston. My sister lives there. My nieces and nephews live there. It's kind of really the only close family I have. So I've lived in Europe for a little bit, but I've never been able to really move away from the Northeast because I don't want to be far from my family. And because we're so scattered all around the world, every winter is hard, and we're coming out of a very hard winter right now. Like it's been brutal in the Northeast, like huge snowstorms. Like January was a lot of very cold. So it's funny how when at the beginning of your life you kind of think you're going to live life on your own terms, and then later in life you kind of you nest more, you want to be near family more, you want to be near old friends more, and they're all here. I've made my life here. So even though the winters are literally every freaking winter, I have not figured out how to make it easier on myself. So yeah, you're catching me at it's just about to pop. The forsythias haven't popped yet, which is what the first signs of spring around here, when the forsythia pops.
So I was born and raised in New York. So I
Okay,
certainly know
you know.
that part of the country. And I spent my 20s back there and then the rest of my life here. I love California. I've been in LA longer than in the desert, and I never thought I would go to the desert. But it offers something that I couldn't have expected. Space. It offers
Mhm.
space.
I could see how the ones that live in the desert, like the continuation of that is that white minimalist and wood look. I can see how that's such a part of that vibe because there's a spaciousness. I've never lived in the desert. I'm a Burning Man person, so I've been to the desert. I've enjoyed the like fruits and wonders of it in different parts of the world, but like space for what?
Oh, around me, I have 5 acres.
Is there a spaciousness like kind of inherent in the topography that opens something up in your spirit?
Yes. Although I've noticed, because my inclination is trees, plants, trees, forest, I love it, and water, which I don't have at all, that
Hmm.
I, around my house, so I bought a homestead cabin. I don't know if you know what they're like. During the 50s, the government
Okay.
gave property to people. And so it was very run down. And I turned the garage into my home and the cabin into a rental.
Hmm.
And the building I'm in now is a metal container
Oh,
that
wow.
was finished. And so the colors I've gravitated to in this house is gray and white with a lot of antique Middle Eastern rugs. And so that's where I get my color. I get those
From
burgundies and from the floor.
yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
And so I'm relating to everything you're saying, but I notice that every place I move, it's very different for me.
Our spaces shape us so profoundly. I mean, anyone who's lived in a home for a certain amount of years can feel what living in that space does for them, Like it's such a profound relationship. So I can see that.
Now, when you were growing up, how old were you when you left Ukraine?
4 years old.
Okay, so you don't have a strong sense of that part of the world, do you?
I do. I mean, I do. I've spent time there since because I was kind of the only child for a while. My sister was born when I was older. I grew up with my grandparents who were retired, who kind of raised me. And so they really gave me a sense of what it was like. They told me stories. I was fascinated. So they gave me a strong sense. And it's something that passes through in the blood, I feel. Like I was very Soviet for very till my mid 20s. I moved to New York and it started to fade, but I very much identified with that.
Describe that more. What was that for you?
Um, well, I came from a family of very traumatized people who were very traumatized by that century in Ukraine. I mean, there was the Holocaust, there was the Russian Revolution, there was like my family was starving literally in the gulags and Stalin. And I mean, it was just this like the poverty and then like what happened to Jews and like being displaced all the time. the cold, not very cold, and the Soviet regime and the fear of speaking and the fear of being put into jail if you said the wrong thing. It was like living under a dictatorship and a fascist state. I mean, and with the Holocaust thrown in, be Jewish, as a minority. We were shaped by that. And I absorbed it, for 4 years there, and then here through the community, because we were in a Russian community, even though in America all our friends were from there. And it's like you miss that sense of home, so you hang out with people that are like you from the same place. So my friends were all Russian speakers. Like I felt very alienated from Americans. I couldn't like quite get them for where I lived, for not everyone. I did have friends, but one to one. I didn't like large groups as a child. Now I do. I felt very profoundly different than this country, and my like I just felt like internally very profoundly different, in a way that I didn't from them. So I felt myself to be Soviet. I listened to Russian music. I spoke Russian all the time. That was my identity. Like I longed for something back there, something that I thought, and we all did, so yeah, it affected me until I kind of came to New York and kind of got swept up in the multiculturalism and the kind of creativity that I found here, in Boston, suburban Boston in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. I couldn't find my tribe other than the Soviet people.
So you are Jewish,
Yes.
Ukraine. Okay, so my family is Jewish also.
Hmm.
I'm third generation. I don't have a sense of the old country at all.
Okay.
They
Okay.
did their best to wipe that out.
Yeah, I hold it. I hold it for my children somewhat, but I realize that it's more like it's more about me than them. So yeah, it's interesting. Your parents your people wanted to assimilate. Mine kept their identity for a while. They didn't.
I mean, I've been very interested in that one because I love storytelling. Because there's a power in understanding our stories and other people's stories.
Yeah.
But also the immigrant story is very interesting, particularly right now.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's very much influenced my choice of career because I was so uprooted over and over and over and over again. I couldn't like root into any one home, into one culture, place. I felt very unrooted. And I think that any refugee or immigrant or just anyone who doesn't feel safe, in general, um, has that feeling of not being able to like root. For me, home really influenced my choice of career, like just that desire to create a space that I could root.
Did you just finish your book? Did it just come out?
I came out in 2025, so last year,
Okay.
April. So it's been almost a year.
Tell us the name of your book and where we can get it.
It's called Spatial Alchemy, and you can get it wherever books are sold, bookstore.org, Amazon, your local bookstore, wherever you buy books.
And do you have plans for another book?
At this point, I don't. I really feel like this book is such a hybrid. It feels like it's going to take people, like, I get a lot of press on the book, but I really want to start teaching the topics. I want to really unite interior design and psychology more. I feel like I need to kind of raise this book. I don't want to do Irish twins with books. I want to really give this book my full attention because I feel like it speaks to something deeper with the home that I really want to inject into the interior design conversation.
You're also teaching classes right now.
I do. I have some classes and I had a bunch and then I kind of put them all to the side and re-recorded. I'm in the process of re-recording because I had just more new ideas. It's really about beginning to work with the kind of manifestational nature of your home, but through the psychological, through your psychology, kind of start working with your self-worth, figuring out how to code your home for abundance, how to use your home as a tool to bring in more intimacy, to give yourself basically the thing that you want from the outside. I love doing homes and I love working with healing centers. Between designing and teaching and speaking about the book, and I feel like my plate is pretty full.
So from everything you told me, my guess is you're an empath.
Oh, definitely.
How was that growing up for you?
I don't know if I would have said I was an empath as a child. I was so like isolated and in my own imaginary world most of the time, so disembodied. Like I was in a lot of trauma. I didn't really connect to that many other children. I didn't know who I was really until I was like kind of in my late teens. Like I didn't know I was an empath. But then once I started going to therapy and kind of beginning to heal myself, I started connecting to people more, having deeper friendships with other women my age, especially like Russian women. I like, people who came from my country. Those were my initial friends. And yeah, that quality came out and now has grown more and more. And naturally, I am an empath, but I was an empath in trauma and very frozen as a child. So I didn't know that much about myself. I couldn't feel myself.
What would you say to other immigrants coming into this country right now? I mean, the trauma is very visible.
Yeah, it's very visible. It's very hard for them to root, especially now they're afraid to be pulled out at any time. And I know how traumatic that is. Honestly, I would say to find a space in your home that, even in a tiny little way, even if it's a temporary space, even if it's on a little tray, and that's as much space as you possibly have, begin to create a vision of your future home, of feeling at home and feeling grounded, and create that vision like a little home in miniature, or whatever that means to you. It could be a sacred, like use it as a sacred portal, because, once you kind of start really putting energy and life into that, it will help, because it's the only thing you can control, the only thing you can do in a world which you feel very out of control. That's what I would say.
So, not to put this in popular metaphors, but you're kind of talking about visualization as you and I think every time you design a house or move a space and create a new space, you're visualizing something.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, space is very visual. I mean, that's one of the aspects of it, So, and then the visual affects the somatic. I mean, it's what I like to do is take the vision of what one wants out of the mind, out of the mental space, out of the imagination, and start creating it, start bridging it into like material reality. I talk a lot about this and I call it materialization. It's like, how do you materialize? People call it manifestation, but I actually see it first coming through the material world where you create it first and then get the energy moving to create it. It's kind of like, rather than waiting for the world to give you the thing that you want, begin to, create it for yourself in small ways. Visualization, if you take it out of only the visual realm in your mind and start putting that visualization into the material realm, you begin to feed your life in a deeper way.
This is something that I face. I had the opportunity to build this place.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this cabin on 5 acres and I got to
Mm-hmm.
do everything I wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
now I have a partner. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a challenge
Mm-hmm.
because he has a very different vision of how he wants to live.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question is for somebody that's moving in with somebody, how do you work with multiple personalities in one space?
Well, everyone goes through the exercise for themselves, and then you start seeing overlaps where the overlaps are. Like, so the question that I ask is, the child question. Like, I have a questionnaire and I ask everyone to fill it out so I get a sense of both people. So they fill it out for themselves, and then I see where the overlaps are and start creating spaces, start creating like a love child. The home is a love child of both of them. And if someone moves in with somebody else who's already been living there, you have to start slowly infusing them, you know?
I think that's where it gets complicated. If
Mm-hmm.
you're going into a fresh space, then you build
Mm-hmm.
together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if someone, I had my partner move in with me when I, 16 years ago when we met, and I was living in a condo in Brooklyn and he was living upstate in a house, and he like let go of his house and or just kind of stopped going stopped hanging out there and just basically moved in with me, and it wasn't easy. I remember, like, it was because I had been used to my space. He brought a dog with him, like a crazy rescue dog who was like deeply traumatized and traumatized me, and there he was like barking and biting and, just a really pained dog. It was hard. So I can appreciate it. But you kind of start working on a where where the happy points are for the person that's moving in, what they would need to change, like what feels most urgent to them to shift and change, and then you kind of start slowly, but you don't want to do so super fast to shock the other person who's been living there. So you find like a rhythm. It's different for everyone.
That's great. Where do you feel you are at with your healing right now?
I'm definitely so much more self-aware than I was, so much softer, so much less egoic than I was, and more patient, more able, less reactive. That's really shifted in the last few years, actually, for me. And it's because I, moved into a home that's like a permanent home, and I'd been kind of reliving my childhood trauma over COVID, moving and moving and moving, which is very hard for me. I haven't moved in a few years, so I'm kind of grounding in and finally beginning to like feel more, just connected. So I'm less reactive. But no, I still work with my anxiety daily. I have a meditation practice daily, and I need it. I really need it to just calm my mind. I'm like very aware of my thinking and what my stories are and what's true, but I still work with myself. Like, I hold myself all day long.
How old are your children?
My children are twins, and they're almost 12.
Oh, that's right. You said they were twins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how are they doing upstate New York?
I am so happy to say that my children are so much more well adjusted than I was. They're just doing great. They're really good at school. They do their homework. They've been in the same school. Like, we both, me and my partner, their dad. Oh, he moved around a lot too as a child. So he and I have share a very similar trauma, and what we wanted to give our children was just to be grounded. So they've been in the same school since kindergarten. They have the same friends. They aren't the new kid. They're doing well in the Hudson Valley. I think they were New York City kids up until kindergarten, and then we moved them here right before COVID started, and they're kind of country kids, but they're both like, we go into the city a lot too. So yeah, I think they're thriving.
That's great. If you could go back and look at the younger person that you were, what would you say to her?
It's a very tender question. I'd say, I've got you. I've got you. You're not alone. Like, I would hold her, I would listen to her. It's very somatic. I do this a lot, actually. I travel back in time and hold my inner child. I Less talking, more holding, more somatic, like stroking of the back, and like, I've got you, not a lot of words, and just listening, more like primal, kind of maternal. My mom was young and very stressed out being in a new country as an immigrant. So I didn't get that kind of solid, grounded, feminine mother energy. So that's what I would give to myself.
And where do you think your resilience came from?
I think my resilience comes with like, I have strong dreams and strong visions. And even though I'm like, in certain ways, an anxious person and someone who has carried a lot of trauma in my body, my dreams are so powerful and so important to me that they drive me. I'm like, I've been on a quest for God, my since my mid 20s, a quest for meaning, a quest for understanding, a quest for deep communion with something bigger than myself in various ways since my mid 20s. So I think the resilience is because of that, because otherwise it was like very hard for me to like live without that, as a young woman. I kind of needed something bigger than myself.
That's wonderful. So I'm going to ask you to give us your website and how to reach
Mhm.
you in your classes. But before that, is there anything else you want to share with people about your work, about you, about life right now, about dealing with this craziness we're going through?
I'm a nerd. I love when I was writing my book Spatial Alchemy, I actually really studied what alchemy really is. Like what is it? What was it? What was it in the ancient world? What wasn't? And I kind of studied the history of alchemy and alchemists and heretics and magicians and all kinds of people like that because I didn't want to just use the word alchemy, I wanted to understand it. In my studies, I feel like the biggest alchemy is turning shit into gold. That is the alchemy, turning the dross of life into the gold of life, turning the shit into gold. Excuse my language. But it's really, it comes to the heart of it. And we right now feel like there's alchemy is needed and kind of an accelerated transformation is needed. And it starts from within oneself in one's own home in order to turn shit into gold in the outside world, in order to affect the outside world. It's really the inner work that needs to be done first. And the alchemy of learning how to turn your own inner shit into gold is the thing that will move the needle in a collective way. And that's one of the things that gives me my resilience because I so strongly believe in that.
How can people reach you?
People can reach me through my website, Spatial Alchemy, thespatialalchemy.com. Make sure you remember the. That's because there's another site with that name. They could reach me through Instagram, Olga Naiman. I check my DMs. I love receiving DMs. And yeah, I love designing healing spaces, stores, cafes, like public spaces where I can affect the nervous system of a lot of people through symbolism, through color, through alchemy, is really my sweet spot. So I would love to collab with people who want to play that game.
Thank you very much for your time.
I'm ending with a gratitude to you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, to listen to me. I love sharing this information, this kind of understanding with people.
Thank you, Olga. Whenever I finish a conversation like this, I'm struck by the unspoken connections we all share. Our backgrounds and perceptions may differ, but our basic needs, struggles, and even our paths towards healing are often the same. We are all looking for comfort, support, connection, and a way forward. We may find ourselves living inside versions of who we once were while quietly longing for something new. We may outgrow the world we see and begin to sense new horizons. The work isn't to create something entirely new, but to gently reshape what's already there, bringing it closer to who we are now. Olga speaks about alchemy as the act of transforming what is difficult into something meaningful, not by escaping it, but by working with it. And that is what our spaces can do for us. Not fix us, not define us, but support us as we show. Each guest, each conversation brings me a step closer to my own sense of growth and balance. I've always believed our environments reflect our inner lives. And I love that Olga Naiman is working with people in both small and expansive ways to create a more peaceful world, one interior at a time. If you'd like to learn more about Olga's work, her book is called Spatial Alchemy, and you can find her at thespatialalchemy.com. I'm Hilary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations.